Welcome into the show, Rick. It's Masters Week, dude. We made it, the first major of the year. Like, we ate a bunch of shit sandwiches, and now we get like a Thanksgiving dinner. Like, we're here, dude. It's Augusta. It's the Masters. It's all been building up to this. How you doing, man? I feel like I haven't seen you in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, good. I was on vacation last week. Fired up for the Masters this week. Spring break was last week, so me and my family went out of town for a little bit. I know you hit a winner on Corey Connors last week. Congratulations on that.
Thanks, sir.
I was lucky enough to hedge out, broke even on the week because I had a Samuel Stevens ticket and a Matt Kuchar ticket. So I was like, at the end of the halfway through Sunday, I was like, yeah, one of those three are probably going to win it. So I just basically bet Corey Connors to break even on the week, and he won. So pretty easy. Move on to Masters Week.
Yeah, I mean, not to spend a bunch of time in Valero because nobody cares now that it's over. For me, it was nice because it was like I finally ended the drought. I think you and I both had like, I don't know, 8 tournaments in a row where one of us had like the backup guy, like who finished in second place. So It was nice to hit a winner. It gives me a little leverage going into the Masters Week because I always get, I am always overextended in these weeks. I end up betting guys live and whatnot. And we've got an interesting dynamic this week with Augusta and the Masters in that we've got all the live guys participating in the tournament this week. There are only 89 guys in this field, and I think it's only 88 now that Aaron Wise is withdrawn from the tournament. Yeah. And we're going to get top 55 in ties and end up making it through the cut. So the 6-6 percentage and DraftKings is going to be high. But realistically, you've probably got, 20, 25 guys that can legitimately win this thing. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but how do you think this all plays out with the live guys participating? You've got Patrick Reed and Dustin Johnson and, Cam Smith, like the big names that I think everybody associates with this tournament. But you've got a bunch of other guys who historically have performed very, very well at this tournament. Your Kevin Nas, Louis Oosthuizen, Charles Schwartzel, way, 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 way down the board. And it's like, I think people are forgetting about all of these guys that earn their way in. Jason Kokrak. These are names of guys who 2 years ago when they were part of the PGA Tour, a lot of people were excited to bet him at big numbers, play him in DFS, and it feels like they're somewhat forgotten going into this week.
Yeah, I think that's where me and you and this golf betting community that we're in has a nice advantage because we don't forget. We don't forget how good these players are. We remember DJ won the Masters a few years ago. We know Brooks Koepka's a 4-time major champion and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to treat it like how I've treated every other major in the past. Play the guys that play well here. I'm not going to factor in live or anything at all. Like, I understand that most people don't want to bet these guys. Most people don't want to play these guys on DraftKings, but I'm going to bet them. I'm going to play them on DraftKings. I'm not going to be scared to do that because I think come Sunday, or Monday, depending on where
we'll get into that. Yeah,
we'll get into that in a second. But come the final round, I'm pretty sure 2 to 3, 4 of these guys are going to be in contention to win the Masters, and I will not be surprised at all if somebody like Cam Smith or DJ or Brooks wins the Masters this year. So it would be a hit to the PGA Tour, obviously, because they obviously don't want to see a live guy win a major. But I'm not going to be shocked by it. I know how good these guys are, and I know they took the money and left and went to another tour or whatever they did, but they still are the top 1% of the golfers in the world, and they're amazing. So yeah, I'm going to play the course history narrative. We know this is the number one course history course on tour all year. So guys that play well here year in and year out, they continue to play well here year in and year out. So those are the guys I'm going to play.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned it, but it is worth talking about off the jump is that we're looking like the forecast is going to have considerable weather basically from Thursday afternoon on. And when I can say considerable weather, rainstorms, thunderstorms, like continuous rain from 2 p.m. local Augusta time all the way through Sunday, maybe even potentially into Monday. So it looks like the heaviest rain is going to fall Friday morning and then again Saturday morning. But again, we could have a heavily impacted weather event this week where, it throws all the modeling, all the narratives, all the statistics out the window. And it's like, okay, who plays like crap when the weather's tough and who plays well when it's rainy and windy and all those things? Like, maybe that's a narrative we need to play this week.
Yeah, man, I was a little disappointed to see that. I was so fired up for this week. I thought I had my research and my what I wanted to do this week pretty nailed down. Come Sunday or Saturday even, but this whole weather thing's throwing a little wrench into everything, and it's not going to be like since it's such a small field, it's not going to be like a wave advantage situation, but it is like you said, it's going to be a situation where you gotta try to play guys that play well in shit weather. And we know the guys that play bad in shit weather. Tiger Woods does not play well in the cold, in the rain. Colin Morikawa does not play good in the cold and rain. Patrick Cantlay does not play good in the cold and the rain. Maybe we, lean on some more European guys like Shane Lowry and Tommy Fleetwood and Sergio Garcia. These kind of guys that have experience playing in bad weather overseas all the time. And we'll see how it impacts our lineups. Obviously, it's still Monday, so the forecast could change a little bit. But I'm pretty sure we're going to get some rain, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be cold. I think there's going to be a couple delays here and there. We may not finish the tournament on Sunday, maybe a Monday finish, which would suck, but it is what it is. But I think it's going to impact our lineups. I'm still going to play the guys that I like, but I'm definitely going to start making some lineups based on the weather and take it from there, I guess.
Yeah. So just looking at, let's call it the most heavily impacted days, right? So the biggest things that we need to factor in are obviously rain and wind. So when we look at the rain factor, it looks like the guys who go off early on Thursday could complete a round without, much rain. Of course, you're going to have softer conditions. It'll be the warmest day of the week. Like you're going to see temperatures in the 85-degree range. But when you look at Friday, like we're expecting rain to start basically Friday at 2 a.m, rain all the way through all day, stop at night, and then start again early in the morning on Saturday. And both Saturday and Sunday are going to be impacted by rain. In addition to that, we've also got the wind to factor in, and it looks like the wind is going to be a factor from basically noon on Friday all the way through Sunday, where it's just going to be 16 to 17 mile an hour sustained winds with gusts up to like 20, 25 miles an hour the entire weekend. So these are considerations we need to think about when trying to target guys. Yes, you're right. Like when we talk about course history, we kind of add it in as a flavor for how we look at modeling. Like we always talk about, you and I are both form guys. Look at guys who are playing the best going into events. But this is the one tournament where I would say you can take all the form you want and throw that out the window and look at course history. Guys who particularly play well at this course, they just show up each year and just play well. With the weather doing what it looks like it's going to do. And again, we're Monday and things could change drastically by the time we get to Thursday or Friday, to your point. The weather could throw a massive grenade right in the middle of all this stuff.
Yeah, it could. I think the only way it's going to impact me a little bit, as of right now, is I think I'm going to start leaning on, we already lean on bombers at this course to begin with, but I think I'm going to wait driving distance a little more heavily this week, given the wet conditions, given the wind. You want the guys that can hit it far and don't have a problem, driving the ball 330, 320, 330 off the tee, because they're not going to get that extra roll if the conditions are going to be soft. So we want them a little closer to the green. So I like the idea of leaning more heavily on guys that hit the ball really long off the tee. We know who those guys are: Rory, Cam Champ, Cam Young, Bryson. Like these are the guys that are the longest in the field off the tee, and I think I'm going to start leaning a little bit more heavily on these guys. Like for example, come Friday or Thursday of last week, I was not thinking about Bryson at all, and now I'm starting to creep into my mind a little bit that, hey, if Bryson's going to be able to hit the ball 330 off the tee, he's going to have a little bit of an advantage like he did at Wingfoot when he won the US Open a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing to play. Bryson, for me, he hasn't been playing well on LIV. I think that's important. While, a lot of modeling and stat figures are not going to have any of the statistics on LIV because LIV doesn't publicize any of that stuff. But his finishes just haven't been great. If I'm picking one guy, to your point, it's probably DJ for me when I talk about a guy who's got kind of a combination of not only being an elite player, but has played well on LIV. He's won a couple of tournaments there. And then you talked about the distance. This is a place where he obviously won. He won the Masters in November in very similar temperatures and conditions to what we're going to see happen this week. And I think the other thing that's at least worth mentioning is there have been additional course changes. They've added, like 150 yards to the to some of the holes. I think it's I think the two in particular were 13 and 3. They added yardage. And, when you talk about adding yardage to that par 5, you take it from 510 to 545. And if anybody's seen the visuals of how they've narrowed that in, Bubba Watson even said, because of the way things look, you might have to hit a 3-iron off the tee to get through, or hit driver and still have a 3-iron into the green on that par 5. So it'll be interesting to see how the course changes, the weather, all of this stuff factors in this week, because it is a small field. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to see a high 6-6 percentage. You're going to see a lot of guys in play. And I would imagine we would see more variance this year, given the conditions, than we've ever seen before.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, even though we have 89 guys or 88 guys or whatever, we can cross off like 20 guys right off the top. Like the old guys like Larry Mize, Fred Couples, like we're not going to play those guys. We're not going to play the AMs. We're not going to play the foreign guys that are in the low 6K. So really it comes down to like 70 people, like 65, 70 people that you're going to put. If you're going to make 150 lineups this week, you're going to, you could potentially just play everybody. Scratch off the people that you're not going to play and play those guys. So yeah, I'm excited, man. 13 looks pretty cool. I think it's gonna, traditionally it plays as the easiest hole every year, but I still think it's going to play as the easiest hole this year, but I don't think there's going to be as many eagles as we see in the past. So I think it's going to be, we're still going to see a lot of birdies on that hole. I think it's still going to be reachable by two by some longer hitters and stuff like that. But even if they're not able to reach it by 2 and they have to lay up, they're going to have like 50-yard wedges in, and I think they can make, these guys are so good they can make birdie from there. So I still think we're going to see a lot of birdies on that hole, but less eagles than we have in the past.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the par 5s are really where you make your hay here at Augusta. And that's why, to your point, we've seen guys who tend to hit the ball farther off the tee have the advantage. And when we're talking about softer conditions, it's everything that you've mentioned. You're just not going to get the roll. So your Zach Johnsons, your guys like that who are shorter hitters that find a lot of fairways, they're going to find themselves with, 5-wood, 3-wood into a lot of these par 5s, and even some of the longer par 4s trying to get home. So it'll be interesting to see how the weather impacts it and what guys end up doing. So let's go ahead and jump into it, Rick. I'm ready, man. I think we've talked enough about it. We might as well jump into it. I do want to remind everybody who is watching or will watch to subscribe to the Nickel City Mafia channel. We do content each and every week, not only golf content, Buffalo Bills content, NFL content, fantasy football, you name it. We're running a number of different shows. So hit the subscribe button. All that stuff just falls right into your feed. And then you don't have to worry about it. You can watch it on your drive to work. You can do whatever you want. Sit in your kid's practice while he's playing soccer at 6 p.m. and watch or listen to the pod, right? Just get it done. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about the Masters. You mentioned it, Rick. It's a small field. And with that, though, we've actually got some juicy numbers in the betting markets. The numbers that I'll be referencing today with you are from DraftKings Sportsbook. And I'm curious, is there anybody, as you kind of scan the board here and look across all of the different names, is there anybody that jumps out to you as like there is significant value in that guy?
It's got to be Bryson now, right? I actually bet him. I got him at 175 to 1, which I think is just an absurd number for him. I know he doesn't have the greatest course history here. I know he's been playing bad, but he's a major champion, and he was. He's won multiple times on the PGA Tour. So getting that guy at 175 to 1, which is what I got him at, I think is just incredible value. He should not be below 100 to 1, in my opinion.
Yeah, the fact that he's across the board larger than 101 tells me that there's value in it. Again, to your point, like if you look at his finishes here, they've been terrible. But I think we've also seen Bryson kind of dial back the smash and smash and gouge technique that he was using, where he was hitting the ball, 350, 400 yards off the tee or whatever it was, and just trying to overpower courses. I think you can be a little more strategic here. And again, Augusta is very, very forgiving off of the tee. Like you can put the ball left, right. You can still have yourself in decent position to get up and down. But I like that. There were a couple other numbers that jumped out to me. Willett at 130, given the conditions. Previous winner. He's played fairly well. Right next to him, Kitayama. Typically, we think of him now as a guy who's won on the PGA Tour after winning API, playing well in the most recent match play. But he kind of cut his teeth as a DP World Tour guy. Those are his first wins playing internationally in Europe. I like him at 130. And then even way down the board, super deep, you've got guys like Horschel, former Open champion winner, Francisco Molinari, who had played well here at 300 to 1. Like, that's a big number. Like, to see him there with guys like Scott Staldings, like, pedigree wise, like, he's a much better player than that.
Yeah, I totally agree. These live guys got bumped down a lot. A couple other names that I did bet just for shits and giggles here. They're not going to win the tournament, but I bet Cam Champ at 300 to 1. I actually
great top 10 bet. Top 10 bet.
Yeah, I actually got it at 3 something. I don't remember what it was, but 3 something to 1. He's one of those guys that's absolutely terrible. He's dog shit and he's not a good player. But every year at Augusta, he comes in and he plays well. He had a top 10 last year. Driving distances, obviously, we know he can drive the ball super far. So I really like him at that number. And just today, just for fun, I sprinkled a little bit because of the weather on Zach Johnson. The last time we saw this kind of weather at the Masters, Zach Johnson won. And at 600 to 1, I think that's a pretty decent number. He's actually been playing kind of decent on the PGA Tour recently, Ryder Cup captain this year. So just down the board, I mean, these aren't like, I don't expect these guys to win, but if you can get a nice number on them, top 20, top 10, I don't think it's a bad bet.
How about Bobby Mack at 100 to 1? That they're again plays from Scotland, like plays on the DP World Tour. I get it. He's a lefty. We see that narrative play out a lot. He absolutely bombs it off the tee. I know that I think it was his first appearance was actually last year. He didn't fare very well. But what about Bobby Mack right there at 100?
I think these odds you got are from before the field was finalized because he's not in the field.
Oh, well, maybe they are. Yeah, I pulled them this morning off of DraftKings Sportsbook. So even like Fowler, who's listed here, I don't even think is even in the field anymore.
Yeah, because he's you got Fowler in there. Leishman's not in the field. Poulter. Yeah, I think these are just numbers that you got like before the field was finalized. So yeah, no Bobby Mack for me this year. Don't bet him.
Is Casey in the field this year?
No, he's not in the field either.
Man, see, there's some numbers there. I was like, man, this seems like a good bet. But hey, if he's not in the tournament, what the hell are you going to do?
Yeah, but I think Masters odds are up all year, and they don't know what the field is going to be until the week before, like finalized. So, if you bet, the only problem is if you bet a guy before the week of the Masters and he doesn't play in that event. So, like if you bet, if you bet Paul Casey earlier this year to win the Masters, you don't get that money back, unfortunately. So I just wait to do my betting till the week of.
Yeah, I have a couple bets that I put in this morning, but we'll get into that towards the end. Why don't we go ahead and jump to the DraftKings side of it, Rick? Top of the board. It feels like every time we get into a Masters or a big tournament, we get super soft numbers and everybody goes balance build. It's like everybody does the guys in the low 9Ks, the high 8Ks, and that's kind of where everybody lives. But, when we look at the guys above 9K, realistically, these are your front runners to win this tournament. Scheffler, Rahm, McIlroy, Smith, Jordan Spieth, Patrick Cantlay. I am actually very surprised that DJ found his way into the 8900s, which we'll get into in a second. But when we look at the top of the board, is there any names that you just cross off the list knowing what we know right
now? Colin Morikawa and Patrick Cantlay for me.
Those are the two I would say as well.
Yeah, I can't play those guys in bad weather. And not only that, they're going to get ownership. I think they will. I think people are going to not be scared to play them. I'm just not a Patrick Cantlay guy. I'm not a Colin Morikawa guy. It needs to be the perfect conditions. It needs to be the right course for me to play either of those two guys. So just for me, those are the two names that I'm willing to cross off. I'm also not going to play Homa this week. I know he's a different player than he was. He's been before, but he doesn't have good course history here. He has a 48th and 2 missed cuts before that. I know he's a better player now, which might bite me in the ass this week, but he's also a cross off for me. Anyone else up here, I don't have a problem clicking that name.
Got it. Yeah, it's interesting because the guy that rated out really well for me that I wasn't in my frame of reference was actually Justin Thomas. Like I was surprised at how well when I ran the numbers he rated out. His course history here has been very, very good. He finished top 10 last year. He's got a top 5 finish. He's got multiple top 15 and top 20s here. His form's not been great as of late, but it hasn't been terrible either. He's coming in basically his last 5. He has 3 made cuts. with the 10th place finish at the Valspar. But I'm curious, like it feels like JT may be a good pivot play in this range, because I feel like people are going to play Xander, they're going to play Spieth, they're going to play Cam Smith, they're going to play Rory, Rahm, Scheffler. The other guys you mentioned, I think, are not going to get played, but Justin Thomas is the one guy to me that I think when I look at everybody else, like that seems like there might be value with Justin Thomas.
I agree. He's turning into slowly. He's turning into a little bit of a sneaky play this week. I don't think many people are going to go to him right now. I'm seeing him at like 15%, but 10 to 15%. But I actually think he's going to come in a little bit lower than that. I think people are actually going to go to Cantlay. I mean, people they don't hesitate.
The history,
yeah, they don't hesitate to play him. So I think Thomas might get a little squeezed here. But for me, it's two guys up here for me this week. I finally, a couple weeks ago, I think it was the week of the Players, or maybe right after that, I finally have accepted the fact that Scottie Scheffler is just incredible. He's just the best player on planet Earth. He's better than Rahm. He's better than Rory, and I think he's my click up here in the 10K range. I think he has a really good chance to repeat this year. He is just. I don't know how to describe it, Tony, but he's so boring to watch, but that's what makes him so good. I mean, he's just like unbelievably boring. And then when he gets in trouble, he just figures a way. He chips in like 3 times a tournament. He figures out a way to make birdie and par from dangerous situations. And he's just steady Eddie. And even in bad conditions, I like him. If you're telling me the winning score this week is going to be like -10, -11, -12, something like that, give me Scottie Scheffler. I can't imagine not clicking his name this week. It's just, how do you open this board up? Yes, he's 11-1, but that's pretty cheap for Scottie Scheffler. I think that's a good price for him. Soft pricing, like you said. How do you not click his name, man? He's just so freaking good. I have finally accepted it. I've etched it into my soul that I will never fade Scottie Scheffler again.
I mean, it's hard to argue with everything that he's done over the last 2 years. You know, even before he went on this run last year and won 3 tournaments in the span of 6 weeks, including a major, like it was always like, man, if this dude could just hit some putts, because statistically he rates out so well in almost every statistical category, especially the ball striking. I mean, in this field, which is littered with the best guys in golf, he is number 1 off the tee. And when we talk about that, that is probably more important at this course than it is at any other tournament on the PGA Tour. Like, you need to put yourself in good position, also with some distance, in the top 20 in driver's distance in this field as well too. And then his approach game, he's 7th. You know, his par 4 scoring, which is important, he's number 2 in this field. It's just like, you line him up against everybody else statistically, he's phenomenal. But then in addition to that, you mentioned the piece of it, like the intangibles, the things that you can't quantify, is that he just runs here the entire time. He never gets too high, never gets too low. You've seen him come close and miss tournaments, and they interview him afterwards, and it's like he's drinking a milkshake and joking with his friends. Like, it just rolls off of his back. So in those big situations, when he needs to hit shots, when the pressure's on, it feels like he's not even thinking about those things.
Yeah. He's gotten to the point now for me where, I mean, it hasn't been this for me since Tiger Woods in his prime, where if he's in contention or has a lead going into Sunday, I think the tournament's over. I think he's going to win, and there's just no doubt in my mind he's going to win. He's so good at closing at tournaments. Now, I don't want people listening to think, I don't want people to think I'm crazy here and not talk about Jon Rahm and not talk about Rory, but I just rather click Scottie Scheffler over those 2 guys. I think out of these 3 guys, that's the one I'm going to click, and I'll probably be underweight on the other 2 guys. But yeah, we know what's going on with Jon Rahm. He hasn't been playing good recently, but before that, it was all. It was that's funny, Mike. It does pain me to say because he's so boring, but he's so good. So, but yeah, but Jon Rahm, I mean, he was untouchable earlier this year. Then he missed a couple cuts. He got sick at the Players. Didn't play well at the match play. So I get it. He's on a little bit of a downturn. But I mean, Rahm is Rahm. He's going to be amazing. We know Rory is going for the Grand Slam again. I don't know if that. I mean, let me ask you: do you think that Rory going for the Grand Slam and that being a top story headline every year puts way too much pressure on him to actually win?
I don't know if it's too much pressure, but it's an added layer that nobody else has to deal with, right? So like he's constantly reminded of this. He knows it's the only one that he hasn't won. And again, he's played well here. He just hasn't really had an opportunity to close the tournament out. Even last year, he holes out on 18 to finish, I don't know what it was, T2, T3, but he never really was in contention. Scheffler, I could have 5-putted on the last hole and still won the tournament. With all that being said, the part about it for me, like going into the week, I was like, this is Rory's year. Everything's lining up. He's got a little less pressure because, to your point, Scheffler and Rahm are kind of like the two best guys in the world right now. I think this is a great opportunity. But then I started thinking about like, he has been the most vocal about the anti-live subject. And now you've got all these live golfers that are going to be playing this week. So he's going to be questioned ad nauseum about that, right? In addition, what we've seen from Rory over the last few years is he doesn't win low scoring, super gnarly, tough events. He wins the tournaments where it's like 23, 24, 25 under, and he can go out and just annihilate a course. So for me, where I was super pro on Rory at the beginning when I started doing my research, after I started factoring all these things in, I said, there's too many things that I'm checking the box going, that's against him versus the other two guys. Rahm is interesting, and the only thing that I would say is we typically see this with Rahm is where he is such a good player on POA and on the West Coast. He starts out so hot, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, he's going to win everything. No one's going to stop him. And as soon as we transition to Bermuda and Bentgrass, all of a sudden he's human again.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're seeing, and it's going to take him some time. Yes, he's won at Memorial. Yes, he's won on these other surfaces. He won in Mexico last year in Las Palmas, but we really see him firing on all cylinders on the West Coast because of the grass surfaces. Yeah. And I just, to your point, of those three guys, Scheffler's the guy for me. The guys underneath these two are the two that are the most interesting to me, though, in Cam Smith and Jordan Spieth.
Yep.
Jordan Spieth is coming in maybe with the best form that he's been in maybe, 5-6 years. And Cam Smith, I remember telling this to you, like, as soon as he defected, I'm like, I'm picking Cam Smith to win the Masters next year. And with the conditions being what they are, that makes me love him even more.
Yeah. Jordan Spieth's my pick to win this week. He's my one and done. I had decided that a few weeks ago. He's won on Easter Sunday the last 2 years. I like that. He plays good this time of the year. I think we were just talking about Rory having all this pressure about winning the Masters and all this stuff, but I think Jordan Spieth has just as much pressure because he let a Masters completely slip away. He should have multiple green jackets, in my opinion. But I think he's going to get the job done this year. At least that's how I was thinking. Like before the weather thing came up, I wasn't really too into Cam Smith because he hasn't been playing that great on live. And there's even been like rumors that he's maybe dealing with an injury or something like that. I don't know how true that is, but with this whole weather thing now, I'm starting to really like Cam Smith because we saw it last year at the Players in terrible conditions. He went out and he was phenomenal in really bad conditions at TPC Sawgrass last year and won that event. So those are my guys, man. Scotty, Spieth, Cam Smith, and JT. Those are the four guys that I absolutely love above 9K this week. And for me, it's Scotty and Spieth, and then my third favorite guy is Cam Smith. And then as far as like a bubble person, I mean, I already said like Justin Thomas, but Xander's interesting to me at flat 9K. He does have a pretty decent history here. I mean, he missed the cut last year. I mean, last year at the Masters was one of the worst tournaments I've ever seen him play. But before that, he's at a third. He was runner-up to Hideki a few years ago, another couple top 20. So Xander is a play that I don't mind. He always gets ownership that always scares me off a little bit. But he's going to be like a bubble guy for me. He'd probably be like, I'll probably be underweight on him or like maybe even to the field. But yeah, for me, it's Scotty, Spieth, and Smith and JT up here.
Yeah, I could see Xander being the second guy in on a lot of lineups that start either Scheffler, Rahm, or Rory. It's just going to be natural for people to go to him because of the pricing break. And then, of course, when we drop down to this next range, a lot of these guys are going to be the second man in a number of different lineups. I'm curious, though, because I mentioned it off the jump, like, do you think we see more balanced because we've got like the Xander at 9K, the Finau at 8,900, or do you think people are going to go grab one of Rory, Rahm, or Scheffler and then try to get one or two of these guys stuffed into lineups?
I think it's going to be more balanced. I think in major soft pricing, like you said earlier, like I think balanced builds are the more popular build, just because you get pretty decent players in the 7K range. And yeah, I think that. So if you want to try to be different, I mean, starting your line, and no one's going to start their lineup Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy. I just don't think that's going to be like a thing. So if you want to go different and be different, that could be a way you could start. So for people that are new here, when we say balanced build, we mean like people, starting your lineups on DraftKings like in the 9K range and like ending off at like the mid sevens or like the low sevens. So we have that, and then stars and scrubs where you take like 2 or 3 really heavy expensive guys and then 3 really cheap guys. So that's the different way to build, I think, this week. So I agree with you. I think balanced build is a more popular build.
Yeah. So in this range, thinking about that, my gut check is that we could see quite a bit of parity in the 8K range where somebody like Tony Finau or Justin Johnson, who would typically in a tournament like this, if we had this pricing, they would be like 20-25% owned. But because there are so many options here that we're going to see ownership dispersed throughout this, who do you think, or who's tracking right now as being like the most, I don't know, heavily owned in this price range?
It's pretty. I'm pretty sure the two chalk guys in this range are going to be Jason Day and Sung J M. I think those are the guys that everyone's going to be clicking because Jason Day's been playing great recently. Sung J M has great course history, been playing good all year long, and they're pretty cheap. Sung J obviously $600 cheaper than Jason Day, 8,100. So that people see that price tag on him. That's pretty inviting for most people. But I will tell you this, Tony. I'm crossing Jason Day off my list this week. I think I'm going to fully fade him. He's super owned. And to be completely honest with you, I think he's not playing as good as people think he is. I mean, people are saying he's playing good. I get the strokes gained are there or whatever, but is it me or he's just not like, I don't know. Like, I just don't see him. Like, he's not winning tournaments. Like, he should be hitting the ball as good as he is right now. He should be winning tournaments. I know you don't need that out of an 8,700 guy, but I don't know, man. It just something about him is just. I mean, he's the last 2 times he's been here, he's also missed a cut, but he's obviously been playing better now. But what do you think about Jason Day? Because the chalk Jason Day scares me. It really does.
At 8,700, it's an easy fade for me. To your point, the metrics, when you start looking at like his performance over the course of like the last 24, 36, or even 50 rounds has been very, very good. We know that the short game is his strength. He's been absolutely phenomenal. And when you look long-term, short-term, he still ranks inside the top 10. The other place where he's really, really gotten good in the short term, when we start looking at like recent history, like the last 4 or 5 tournaments, his par 4 scoring has been unbelievable. His approach has been very, very good. So all the ball striking metrics. And I think when people look at him, they're like, if he can marry traditionally what is his strength, which is around the green and on the greens, with what he's doing now with the short game, we should see the 2017 version of Jason Day when he won like, I don't know, 5 or 6 times in a season. To your point, though, even though he's been playing very, very well, and I would say it's probably like Ricky Fowler, where it's like he's playing so much better, where he's consistently making cuts, he's getting top 10s, top 25s, top 5s even, but he's never in contention. Like we're not seeing him come down the stretch, tasting smoke on a Sunday, like with big putts on the last 5-6 holes of a tournament. It's like he finishes well and gets, a 10th place finish. And it's like, man, Jason Day's playing great. And he is, but to your point, I don't see him in the same category in this price range with like Finau or Dustin Johnson or even Hideki, like, or Im, like those guys. To me, I feel like while the floor may be similar, like the upside is much higher on all those guys. Those guys have potential to win this week. And I don't see
Yeah, I don't see it with Day either. I mean, I know some people that got him at like 80-1 and 70-1. That's a good number. I agree with that. But there's no chance in hell I'm betting him now at, what is he, like 30-1, 25-1? No way.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, no thanks. I'd rather bet DJ 8,800. I like that. I like that price. I'm going to play him on DraftKings for sure. But I'm not a Victor guy, Tony, and I told you earlier today. I
You
rarely
posted it in the Discord.
I rarely ever play him, but I'm on him this week, man. Big Dick Vic. He's my guy this week in the 8K range. I think we know how bad he is at chipping. We know his around the green game, and the bunker play is just atrocious. But I posted in the Discord earlier today. For some reason, at majors, he just knows how to chip. I don't know why, but I don't know if that's an anomaly. I don't know if it's a just too small of a sample size. I don't know what the situation is, but he figures out how to chip at majors, and his ball striking has just been phenomenal this year. And he's long off the tee to green. He's great. He's my guy in the $8,000 range, 8,500. I'd rather fade the chalky Jason Day and Sung J M and go right in between and take Victor Hovland at 8,500.
Yeah, I mean it's not a bad call. The thing with me and Hovland, even though he is playing, I mean he's been playing pretty damn good, other than match play where he was atrocious. But he's coming in with good form. I think he finished like top 5 at the Players. He had a top 10 at API. I just, you mentioned it, the short game to me, which we've seen historic. We look at guys who've won the Masters. It feels like those guys are good, short game guys, which is why, I think a lot of people are kind of gravitating around like people like Cam Smith. At the same point in time when Victor's at peak Victor, like he's hitting every fairway, he's hitting every green, and he's starting to trend that way where he's getting better and better and better. So this is typically the time of the year where we see him play his best golf, kind of in that April on through the Memorial. Like we really see him come alive. So I think there's a case to be made for him. And I think the other thing is just, to your point, if he's lower owned than other guys in this area, like I think it's a great move. Sam Burns, until he had won the match play, was kind of like everybody was out on Sam Burns. And then all of a sudden he has, the 6th place finish at the Valspar and wins the match play. And it's like, okay, all of a sudden Sam Burns is back to being where he was last year. Yeah. And the reality is, like, I'm not a big fan of Burns this week. The guy to me that I love Justin Johnson like you in this range, but the other guy that I'm interested to see what happens is Zalatoris. Like I know that he's been beat up, but when you look, the guy has got a 6th and a 2nd place finish here in the 2 editions that he's played at this course. So I would be willing to bet on the high upside of Zalatoris at low ownership, because I think a lot of people aren't going to play him because they're like, he hasn't been playing very good. He might be injured. I think I'm out. If I was to roll the dice, I think he would be the roll of the dice for me this week versus Hovland, but that's just a personal preference.
I mean, you know who you're talking to. You don't have to sell me on Zalatoris. He's definitely going to be the lowest owned. Like I think between him and Burns are going to be the 2 lowest owned guys in this range. I'd definitely rather click Zalatoris because I know what his upside is. I think he can win this tournament if he's healthy and or whatever. But it's a scary click for me. This is the range of injured dudes. Jason Day injured all the time. Hideki injured. Zalatoris injured. Fitzpatrick injured. So it's a lot of scary clicks here. If you want to go that route, I know the injured guys get lower ownership, except Jason Day is healthy now. But between Hideki, Zalatoris, and Fitz, between those 3 guys, if I'm going to pick an injured guy, I think it's going to be Zalatoris. I know he played terrible at the match play, but his course history is amazing, and he's just like Victor Hovland or Corey Connors. For some reason, he's a terrible putter everywhere else, but he knows how to putt on these greens. I think the fast greens kind of mitigate his bad putting a little bit. So I like Zalatoris. I like Vic, like I said. I like DJ. I'm with you on that. The other guy that I really like, and it's another one that I feel like I have to sell him to you every week, but you don't have to sell him to me. Is Cam Young at 8,600? We saw. I had a ticket on him at match play. I was foolish enough not to hedge out when he made the finals. I let it ride because I thought he was going to crush Burns, but he got crushed instead. But I think this course suits up perfectly for him. He's second in the field in driving distance over the last 36 rounds behind Rory. I think his distance is going to be a major factor this week. He missed the cut last year, but he was a debutant, first time seeing this course in tournament play. So he has that under his belt. I like him. He's going to be low owned. I think for me, he's probably, if I was to rank my guys in this range, it's going to be Vic 1, DJ 2, and then probably Cam Young 3, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to ignore Finau at the top.
Yeah.
But if you just want to play the ownership narrative that he's probably going to be heavily owned, like I get that. You can just choose to not click him. For me, if I was to rank those guys in this range, DJ would be 1 here for me. Cam Young would be 2. And again, you usually have to sell me on him, but I have been watching him like even during match play, like the ball striking is so good, and his best weapon is off the tee. He absolutely pounds the ball. And I think it's important to understand like his ball striking metrics are as good as anybody's, and he can run really, really hot with the putter, especially on bent. And that's what we're putting on this week. I think Augusta is bent grass. So I love the call on Cam Young, but I would go DJ 1, Cam Young 2, and then it would be Zalatoris 3 for me, just from the perspective of looking how he's played here and his pedigree as a player for his price. If we were getting, Zalatoris without all of the asterisks, he would be $9,000 this week. So I feel like we're getting a discount at 8,200.
I agree. Any thoughts on Fitz?
I keep waiting for him to turn the corner and get back to being the guy that we saw win the U.S. Open last year. But I don't know if it's lingering injury or he's just not feeling it. But again, with the weather being trash, again, we talked about these Euros, talked about these Englishmen, like they thrive because it's the environment that they learn to play golf in. It's where they're most comfortable. So I could absolutely see a case where Fitzpatrick fits the mold if we're getting rainy, cold conditions over the course of the 3 or 4 days that the tournament's played.
I think that's the only reason why I would play him. If the weather's bad, I think that's the only reason why I would click it, which it looks like it's going to be bad. So I wouldn't mind getting some clicks on him. Mike, no, Will Z hasn't withdrawn recently, but he's just been playing really bad. So he has a lingering he just had back surgery at the end of last year, so he's had to change his swing a little bit. So I think most people are just thinking he has like lingering back issues that's affecting his ability to play right now. So, but no, he hasn't withdrawn. Although he probably should have withdrawn.
But I mean, even at the match play when he played terrible, it was all putting related. Like he was hitting fairways, he was striping greens. The guy missed, 12 4-foot and under putts, like for par and birdie. Like it was like bad how terrible he was putting. Like he was. Everybody saw the viral clip of him missing that 4-footer by 4 feet. But like that's how bad he putted all day. So that gives me some, I guess, not assurance, that's not the right word, but some confidence that, as long as he's still striking the ball well, and to your point, this is a place where we see shitty putters putt really, really well because the greens are so undulated and so fast. Like it mitigates the difference between great putters and not so great putters, where a guy like Will Z can show up again.
Yep, I totally agree. We didn't even talk about Hideki, past champion.
I like the play. I do. Hideki plays well here. So again, I don't think Hideki's got enough juice to win right now, given where he's at. But I like the play on DraftKings. You've got a number of guys like we talked about that are going to be low owned compared to your Finaus and your Days and your DJs. And I think they're all great options. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, he's had this lingering neck issue for a while now, but I mean, he played 4 rounds last week and he looked fine. I don't think I didn't see anything to scare me off on playing him. And we've seen him, obviously win this tournament before and play well other years here before. I don't mind it. I think that's a good pivot play. If you're gonna try to get off of a chalky Sungjae or a chalky Jason Day, I think Hideki's a decent pivot play, but tough click for me in general, just because I like Vic right above him and Will Z below him. So I don't know. He's 8th in your model, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm factoring in course history. We saw him play fairly well in super cold conditions in Japan when he won the CJ Cup, and then obviously playing in the Olympics. It was very cold, it was very rainy, and he played well there. He's used to that kind of climate. So if we're talking about those conditions, and then again, just looking like the last 2 tournaments, the Players and the Valero, where he finished 5th and 15th, dude, the tee to green game was phenomenal. He gained 8 strokes tee to green versus the field at the Players, finished in 5th place, gained in basically every single metric. And then at the Valero, where he finished 15th, it was really around the green that hurt him. He was losing strokes there, but off the tee, gaining 4.3 versus the field. And on approach, he gained consistently. He's been gaining on approach. So that gives me some, again, to use the same term, confidence that it's like at least the ball striking is there. And you just got to hope that he can pull it together. We've seen him do it because obviously he's won the Masters, but he pulls together the around the green game here because that really is the place where he's been bleeding strokes.
Yep, totally agree.
Dropping down into the next range, again, some pretty juicy picks. We mentioned it, Aaron Wise is a withdraw, but this is really where we start to see what I would call the undercard of live guys start to make their influence known in terms of who's playing. You've got your Joaquin Niemans, your Bryson DeChambeaus, Patrick Reed, Louis Oosthuizen. And again, as much as I'm not a fan of the whole live model, their product, whatever, I think there's some good ownership pivots on those guys. I mean, Louis Oosthuizen is probably the one, him and Patrick Reed, that stick out the most to me, where I don't think people are going to click their names because they're like, oh, they're playing live. They're not playing real golf anymore. And it's like, it's still competitive golf at a high level. And these guys like Patrick Reed in particular has been playing very, very well on live. And this is a place that Patrick Reed is super comfortable. He's from Augusta, Georgia. He went to Augusta State in college. He's won the Masters. And if everybody wants to stick up two middle fingers to the PGA and shove it right down Jay Monahan's throat, it's Patrick Reed. And it's $7,300. I love the play on Patrick Reed there.
I'll tell you what, in the first lineup that I built this week that I think I'm going to use for my single entry, Patrick Reed's in that lineup. So I totally love the call on that. Obviously, we know he's a past champion here. Like you said, he went to Augusta State University. He knows his course like the back of his hand. And yeah, he's the villain. He plays that villain card so well.
So well.
Like he just uses it as motivation. And he's a good wind player also. If it's going to get windy, I don't mind playing some Patrick Reed. But yeah, the live guys in the 7K range is where you're going to find ownership, leverage. I think Brooks at 7,600, even though he won last week on live. I like him this week. He's going to be lower owned because he has the chalkiest guy in this range of Corey Connors right at the same price as him. So everyone's going to click Corey Connors over Brooks Koepka. I'm going to let I do it every year, and he always burns me every year. But I'm just going to fade Corey Connors again because he's always chalk and he always comes through at this event. Obviously, he won last week, but I'm going to take the ownership leverage there. I'm going to go to Minwoo. I'm going to go to Brooks. I like Sahith below him. I like Bryson below him. So for me, Corey Connors is a fade. The other chalky guy above 7,500 is going to be Justin Rose. I like him. I don't mind him. I think what was it, last year, maybe the year before, he was first round leader, and then he kind of faded away a little bit. But he's been playing better golf. He posted a cool video on Twitter yesterday or today about his yardage books for Augusta. So he plays really well at this course. He has great course history. He'll forever be etched in my soul as a loser because he lost to Sergio in a playoff when I had a huge ticket on him a few years ago. But I like him. I know in general we always like rag on him, and I know you I know you hate him, but I think he's a pretty decent play, and there's a reason why he's chalk this week.
Yeah, I mean, there was a span there of like 4 or 5 years where it was like every single major I was convinced that Rose was going to win, and he never did. So I had a Justin Rose problem for a while. I'm not going to be playing him this week. There are guys, however, that I do really like above $7,500. I love Lowry and I love Fleetwood. Those two guys I really like, especially if the conditions are going to be terrible. For their price point, I think there's good value there. I feel like a lot of people are going to be on Minwoo. I love the bet. I don't know if I'll play him on DraftKings. And then the live guys, like I love Patrick Reed. I love Louis Oosthuizen. And the other guy I like that nobody's talking about is Siwoo Kim. Like Siwoo Kim just always seems to play pretty well at the Masters every year. So
never missed a cut. Never missed a cut here.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, this is where if you want to win money on DraftKings this week, you've got to do it in this range. And you've got to do it by finding guys that are not chalky that end up finishing like, T5, T6, T10. Like if you can get a guy at using Patrick Reed as an example at $7,300 and he finishes inside the top 5 and he's low owned, like that's a massive boost. So there's a huge advantage to not playing the chalk like the most heavily owned guys in this range. Like to your point, yeah, Corey Connors has finished 6th, 8th, 10th, and it looks like he's probably going to be the most heavily owned guy in all of DraftKings. Like everyone's going to have him. So if he comes in 10th place, guess what? Nobody has any leverage. But if you've got Tommy Fleetwood and he's 3% owned and he comes in, 12th place, you're going to get way more of a bump than what happens with Corey Connors because everybody else is playing him. So those are the kind of things you've got to factor into when you're building lineups on DraftKings this week. And I think there's also a similar narrative that can be played for betting this week. Like we talked about it, there's only so many guys that realistically have a chance at winning the tournament this week. Like, do I think Keith Mitchell's going to win the Masters? I don't think so. Could he? Sure, maybe he could play out of his mind and win, but I don't think he has a legitimate chance. I think Patrick Reed has a legitimate chance of winning this tournament. I think Brooks Koepka has a legitimate chance of winning this tournament. I don't think Corey Connors can win this tournament, but there are guys in this range that I do think can win, and there's some better odds on guys like that.
Yep, I totally agree. I like the other 3 live guys that we didn't even talk about in this range. I like Neiman at 7,800 if the weather is going to be bad and it's going to be windy. I played Neiman every week he was on the PGA Tour, so you don't have to convince me to play Joaquin Neiman. Yep. He has a low ball flight, so it really does help pierce the wind a little bit. So I like him at 7,800. I like Abe Answer at 7,400. He's been playing really, really good on live. Pretty decent course history here. I missed the cut last year, but previous 2 years was the 26th and 13th. And I like Mito. Mito is another one of those guys that I always played when he was on tour. 7,200. He's been playing good in his few events that he's played on live. But at 7,200, I think it's a pretty good price on him. The other guy that I really, 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 really like, Tony, this week, driving distance, long irons, really, really good. He won an elevated event against the big boys a few weeks ago. Kurt Kitayama, 7,100. I think that's my favorite play below 7,500 this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Kitayama this week. I think he might end up being a popular play this week just because of the things that you talked about. Like people don't realize it, but he's one of the longest guys off the tee. He absolutely smashes the ball. He's top 10 in that metric. And he's just been playing really, really good golf. Yes, he missed the cut at the Players, but again, we talked about it off the jump. Pedigree, he came from the DP World Tour. He's used to playing in these rainy, cold conditions. So I love the call on Kitayama this week.
Yeah, he's really good with his long irons, like I said. And if it's going to be wet, he's another one of those guys. Like we said, he even though he's American, he's played most of his career on the DP World Tour in windy conditions, in bad weather. So he has a little bit of a good experience with that. And he just won an elevated event against the big boys a few weeks ago. So he stared down. Who did he beat that week at API? I don't even remember who he beat, but
it wasn't Scheffler, was it? It was one of those guys. It was like Scheffler or Rahm or Rory. Like he was going bell to bell.
I mean, he looked these guys in the eyes and beat them. So I like it. 7,100. He's a good play. We can't go past this range and not talk about Tiger, but I'm not going to play him on DraftKings. If he wins, that's amazing. My favorite meme out right now is it's a girl saying, "What do guys want to see most in this world?" And it's Tiger winning another major, and I think that's what everyone wants to see. I would be extremely ecstatic if he won and I lost all my money this week. No big deal. But in these conditions, in wet, cold, windy conditions, with steep hills up and down to walk, I wouldn't be surprised if he missed the cut this week. Even though he is number one in this field with course history, we know he knows his course so well, and probably even in bad conditions, he can still make the cut. At 7,300, I just don't think he can. Even if he makes the cut, I just don't think he's going to do much, man. I don't think he makes enough birdies. I don't think he's going to finish in the top 20. I don't know. What's your thoughts on Tiger? Because I'm not playing him this week. I'm not betting him this week. But, if he wins, he wins.
Yeah, I mean, my take would be this. Of the guys that he's around, Patrick Reed, Louis Oosthuizen, and Tiger, if I was to rank how I think those guys are going to finish this week, it would be Reed 1, Louis 2, Woods 3. Mm-hmm. So, again, like some people may argue at that point, like I think that he's got a legitimate chance to make the cut, like we saw him earlier this year. I don't know, given where he's at health wise, and to your point, like the conditions that they're going to be playing in, if that bodes well for him. And so I would rather fade him, especially if he's going to be heavily owned. Like I don't see any advantage to playing a guy who I think legitimately has a chance to finish in the top 40 at like 20% ownership. Like that, just put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger. Like that's just seems like a bad plan. But I get it. It's Tiger Woods. He's the greatest player of all time, and people are just going to go there. But I would take Reed or Louis over him right now.
Hell, I'd even play Taylor Moore over him to be completely.
Taylor Moore just won an event.
Yeah. So, so I think we're pretty lockstep in there. Any other names in this range you like? Any strong stances on anybody? I don't really have anybody else.
The only other guy that I like that I'm going to take some shots on in lineups is Chris Kirk. He's just been playing good, man. I mean, this is the best version of Chris Kirk that we've seen in a while. You know, I know that he missed a cut at the Players after winning, but again, he comes back at Valero, finishes top 10. The ball striking numbers are phenomenal. And I like him. I don't think anybody's going to go to him. And to me, when I put him up against Mitchell or Henley or Garcia or, Horschel, I like him better than all of those guys. So I would say Kirk might be the other guy that I'll end up peppering in the lineups when I need to get somebody, in that $771, $7,200 range.
Okay. He hasn't played the Masters in 7 years. He had a missed cut in 2016, a 33rd and a 20th before that. So he's finished here. And if you get a top 20 out of Chris Kirk this week, that he pays off his price tag. So
that's right. And I like that. I think that's a good top 20 bet. If I was to throw one out there, Chris Kirk top 20, that's solid given the numbers. Like we talked about it, there's probably, the top 55 make the cut, and there's really only 70 guys that are real guys in this field. So You tell me those odds. That feels pretty good on a guy like Chris Kirk, who's already won this year and just coming off a top 10 finish.
Yep. I think that's it. Do you want to talk about Tom Kim at all? I don't really.
It's funny. If we were to rewind 6 months ago, you and I both would have been just going nuts over Tom Kim. And he's the most solid play. You got to play him. He's going to be the most heavily owned guy. And what we've seen is him just kind of come down to earth. And again, I guess when you look at it in light of like what he had done, like there was no way he could sustain that, right? He was just playing at such a high level, and he's a debutante. His form hasn't been great. He's making cuts. So, I don't mind the play against a chalky Corey Connors, but I do think there's a big difference in where the floor is for Tom Kim versus Corey Connors. Like I feel like Corey Connors, you can almost lock him into a top 20. And if Tom Kim finishes in the top 20 this week, I would be like, that's a good finish for him.
Yeah, I'm seeing sub 5% ownership on Tom Kim. Very, 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 very good ownership pivot. He could be a guy that can win you $1 million, but I think I'm out on him. I'd rather go to the guys that we talked about instead.
Yeah, Fleetwood, Neiman, even Koepka. I think I would go there first. Minwoo Lee, I don't know. I haven't seen it from Tom Kim as of late.
Yep. All right, let's go dumpster.
All right, into the dumpster. The guy below 6K or below 7K in the $6,000 range. There's still some names. Kevin Na's down here. Great form. Always plays well here at Augusta. He played well last week in the Live event in Orlando, whatever that's worth. But there are some names down here. I think when you start getting below 6,500, it gets pretty ugly pretty quick. So I would avoid doing that. But you can play Schwartzel and Kokrak and Willett and Molinari. Like these are, to me, they're names that are real guys. Even Ryan Fox, who I know is coming off of a miscut after being pretty popular last week, and this is his first time here. Like, why not Ryan Fox? He's one of the best players in the world. Harris English, who started to play better. We saw him T2, I think it was at API when Kitayama won, and is he's a Georgia Bulldog. Taylor Gooch, Thomas Peters, Bubba Watson, who's won this event multiple times. Like, there are names here. You can grab any of the guys that I rattled off there, and I think they're solid plays to round out a lineup. And I don't think a lot of people are going to end up coming here because everybody's going to go balance this week. Yeah, I agree. If you can end your lineup above this range, it'd be nice. But sometimes you gotta dip down here, and that's how you win GPPs. I don't think I would play anyone below 6,400. Even though Sepp Straka did make a hole in one today in his practice round, which is pretty cool. Did you see that? No, I didn't see it, but that is the name that I was going to mention. He was the only guy below $6,400 that I would feel semi-confident in his ability to play here.
Yeah, he made a hole in one on 12 today, which was pretty cool. So Seb Straka, I guess. Zach Johnson, I mean, I like him, but like he's been playing all right, but like, you know, I'm not going to play Zach Johnson on DraftKings. It's just more of like a fun little bet. But yeah, man, I'm just going to ride the course history here, man. I know he's been absolute trash. He's missed like 5 straight cuts or whatever, but Cam Champ, man, 6,600. I think he's going to be a pretty core play for me as a staple in my lineups. He's finished 10th here last year, 26th and 19th the last 3 years. But even at those events, he had no form coming in. He had a slew of missed cuts coming into those events. But for some reason, comes out here and he figures it out for some reason. So I like Cam Champ at 6,600. The only reason he's in this tournament is because he got a top 10 last year. So I would not be surprised if he gets another top 10 this year. Danny Willett at 6,600. He's been playing pretty decently this year on tour. You called it earlier with the weather. I don't mind him being a European player. Taylor Gooch, I don't mind at 6,800. I know he hasn't been playing that great on Live, but he did have a 14th place finish here last year, so don't mind some Taylor Gooch at 6,800. You said Schwartzel. I don't mind Schwartzel. I don't mind Kevin Na. I don't mind Harold Varner at 6,500. I don't mind Kokrak at 6,500. But yeah, I mean, you can definitely fill your lineup with some guys down here, and it wouldn't be too scary. Molinari. No, I'm not gonna play Molinari, but he almost did win it in 2019 when Tiger won. But
I think they buried him on the course that day because this guy that's playing now is like the ghost of Francisco Molinari. I think he died at Augusta that day.
Yeah, Schwartzel, I think could be a sneaky play. He did finish top 10 here last year. He did win. He won a Live event recently, right?
He won. I think he won the first Live event. I don't know, how he's been doing recently because I haven't been following Live that closely, but. I mean, he's won here. He's won at this course. This is a place where he's familiar and he shows up randomly. Even when he was nobody like 2 or 3 years ago, there was a year he showed up and finished like T2, T3 here.
Yep, I could definitely play him at 6,400. I don't mind that. Not going to play Phil. I'm not going to play KH Lee. I don't really have much interest in Poston, Svensson, English, Harmon.
Bubba Watson. What about Bubba Watson?
Nah, I'm out.
Come on, man. The guy has played this event like, I don't know, he's won it twice. And like, look here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He's made 12 of his last 13 appearances here with 2 wins in that span.
I get it. He's coming off of a long injury. He hadn't played golf for a really long time. There's a reason he's 6,900. He's left-handed. He knows how to shape his ball well in the wind. I get it. But I think I'd rather go to someone like Peters or Hoagie or Gooch over Bubba Watson. I mean, no one's going to play him. I think he's coming in at, sub 4% ownership, so no one's going to play him. In the 6K range, it looks like the chalk is going to be Tom Hoagie, 6,900, 10%. Danny Willett at 10%. But other than that, I don't see anyone above 5% ownership. So if you want to avoid the chalk there, it'll be Hoagie and Danny Willett. So yeah, I mean, maybe I'll play Bubba Watson in one lineup this week.
Hey, so like I said, I think these like down here is a great place to absolutely fade chalk, take some chances. Because the likelihood that your guy, even if he doesn't play great, makes the cut because of the limited field, like it's high. So the guys I like down here for those reasons, I like Seamus Powers. He's an Irishman. He finished top 30 here last year. No one's going to play Seamus Powers because he hasn't been playing great. But again, he's been playing elevated events against very difficult fields on courses where he typically has not played very well. I like Seamus Powers at 6,800. I love the Cam Champ call. I like Danny Willett, even though he is coming chalky. I like the Schwartzel call. I like the Seb Straka call. And the other guy that I'll at least throw out there that's going to find his way into some lineups because I'm going to end up going with 2 guys like that are in the high 9s and 10Ks is I'm going to sprinkle in some Mac Hughes. Played very, very well at the match play. And his last 2 times here, he's made the cut. He hasn't played great, but when you're talking about a guy at 6,300, just make the cut. Make the cut, get through, score me some points on the weekend.
Yeah, I don't mind that call. He always has this luck factor where he makes a 100-foot putt every week. So
Canadian, he likes the cold. I'm trying to find reasons to play him, but I could see playing Mac Hughes this week. And again, we always talk about like Jordan Spieth and what he does here. Like Mac Hughes is like, the homeless man's version of Jordan Spieth.
That's a good way to put it, I guess. I don't know if I can click the name, but yeah, don't mind it. But yeah, I think my favorite play down here is going to be Cam Champ, and then I think my second favorite play down here will be, I'll say Danny Willett will be my second favorite play down here. Even though he's chalky, I get it. I think he'll be my second favorite play down here. Jason Kokrak at 6,500 is pretty interesting. He's really long off the tee, good tee to green player, good putter. I don't really know what he's been doing on Live, but he's here, so he's been playing all right. So
now I got to check because we keep talking about this Live guys, and they're not in any of our databases for stats. But Jason Kokrak, Jason, what have you been doing on Live? Let's pull it up real quick.
I don't even know where you find that.
You have to go to the Live website because nobody else has the stats anywhere.
Oh, okay.
So let's see. Live golf history. Let's see. This year. So he's gone 19th at Mayakoba, 38th in Tucson, and then 12th last week at Orlando. So he's getting better. He's trending, I guess, in terms of Live. But everybody makes a cut and plays. So what the hell's that worth?
And they play 3 rounds. So
yeah, they play 3 rounds exactly. So yeah, right. I wonder how much that'll impact the guys from Live, right? Like the fact that they've been playing 3 rounds, right? If you're a mile runner and you've been running 3 laps at unbelievable times, obviously there's a huge difference in running a 4th lap. But does 4 days really make a difference if you're a golfer?
I don't think so. I mean, these guys play golf every day. I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, I don't think it is either. I think, especially because the Live guys are going to be under-owned, I think they're great pivot plays throughout. And again, not that I'm pro Live in any way, shape, or form, but I just think from a pivot perspective, you're going to get some really good names at massive discounts because, to your point, you're going to have a bunch of people playing DraftKings this week that aren't normal DraftKings golf players because it is a major, and there's 3 millionaire makers this week on DraftKings. And you're going to be able to get some ownership pivots that you normally would not get on guys.
Yep. All right, let's move on.
So the Nickel City Mafia one and done standings. Dude, your boy Chris is killing us. Me and Mike, dude, I have to admit, like, I was looking not only at this one, but the other one. Like, I've been picking golfers that are getting through the cut, but like, I can't get anybody like inside the top 5. Like, all my guys are like T10 to T20, and that scores no money. And I just can't seem to pick a winner, but you've nailed a couple guys. Chris has obviously nailed a couple guys, but you mentioned it.
Lots of time left. A lot of elevated events left. A lot of money. There's no one's out of it yet, so we still have lots of time.
I was listening to Mayo talk about their one and done. He was saying there's a couple guys that are at like $15 million already. That's insane. Like how many winners you have to hit to get to that point. That's crazy to be that far ahead right now. But Chris is in first place. Who's everybody got this week, Rick?
All right, so Chris at the top, he has Cam Smith as his one and done. I have Jordan Spieth. Jake has Patrick Cantlay. You have Cam Smith also, and Mike has who does Mike have? Mike has Jordan Spieth as well. So me and Mike are unlocked up with Jordan Spieth. You and Chris are unlocked up with Cam Smith, and Jake is the different guy with Patrick Cantlay. So good chance for Jake to move up and in the standings, and we'll see what happens. But I like I said, lots of golf left, one and done. Don't panic too early. It's still pretty early in the season, so if you think you're out of it, you're not. You just need to hit a few winners, which is not easy to do, but good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. So some good values this week. Have you placed any bets yet? I'm just curious.
I have. I have bet Bryson. I have bet Brooks. I have bet Jordan Spieth. I have bet DJ. Those are the only 4 bets I have in right now.
I have bet Jordan Spieth at 18-1. Cam Smith at 25-1. I clicked Colin Morikawa before I saw the weather at 30, and now I'm regretting that one. But I have DJ at 35, Louis at 150, Danny Willett at 225, And then the only other guy that I've added since then, I'll probably do a couple more, but I have Patrick Reed at 80-1, and I feel really good about that one. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get on him too. Me and Tony will have our full betting cards out on Discord tomorrow. So if you're new to the channel, please join our Discord channel. Link is in the description below. We will be obviously talking about the Masters all week on the Discord. We'll put out our full betting cards on Wednesday. I'll put out a write up about the weather and my core plays for DFS on Wednesday. So join the Discord and check it out.
Absolutely. That is the best endorsement we've had for the Discord. It's fun. It's active. Of all the channels that we have that are associated with Discord and the Nickel City Mafia, the golf one is the most active, and we get some pretty funny stuff through there. So highly recommend that. It's absolutely free. Just click the link, sign up, and go from there. Rick, good luck this week, man. I'm excited for the Masters. I realize we could have a Monday finish with the weather, which would suck, but hey, it is what it is. It's our first major, and if it's wet and sloppy, it means there may be some live betting opportunities where we might be able to get some guys at some big numbers with an opportunity to win some big money from left field, given the conditions.
Yep, I totally agree. Enjoy Masters Week. I will definitely be glued to the TV all week. I'm so pumped up. I'm my favorite week of the year, so enjoy it. It comes and goes every year, and hopefully we hit a winner this year, man.
And go San Diego State Aztecs, getting ready to tip off here in, I think, 15 minutes in the national championship.
They've already started.
There you go.
Yeah, they are losing by 8 with 8 minutes in the first half. So
that's not good.
Yeah, it's good for me. I have UConn in one of my brackets, and I actually end up finishing second in a pretty big pool if UConn wins tonight. So
very nice.
I would have won if Creighton had made the final and lost to UConn. I would have won a humongous pool, like a $25 like 1,000-man pool for like 10 grand, but Creighton lost to San Diego State, unfortunately. But I still got a chance to win some of my money back. So go UConn.
Go UConn. We'll be rooting for UConn for you, Rick. And then good luck this week in the Masters. Right. And like I said, leave a note, send a message, join the Discord, and we wish everybody real good luck this week for the Masters. That's it for us, Rick. Have a great night. Good luck in your softball game tonight, dude.
Thanks.